What is up, everybody? My name is Chad Brock.
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
You're watching the 37th edition of the Orion Podcast. This is like cowbell, but with chatterbait. More chatterbait.
I like
Kind of
it.
like that. It's something different. Something
I
different.
like
Felt
it.
right. Felt right in the moment. Oh, man. Gosh, what a night. Busy week, busy week, busy week.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's pay them bills here first, then we'll talk about the busy week, busy 2 weeks, busy month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First off, thanks to Jackson Kayak. Right. I can never get it right. It's all reversed. It bothers me.
So it's over there somewhere.
Thanks to Jackson. Thanks to Jackson Kayak. Thanks to Orion Coolers for everything that you do for us. We appreciate the heck out of you. Guys, if you're looking for an Orion cooler, pick yourself up one. JacksonKayak.com. They're actually selling like hotcakes right now. We have to up the production a little bit to get more coolers out the door. So Orion rocks at JacksonKayak.com. Save yourself 5%. Pick you up a new cooler. You deserve it. You've been working hard. The holidays might be over for the summer, but you got the big family holidays coming up, and you know you need a good cooler for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You need a good cooler. Get yourself one. JacksonKite.com. Cast King. Thanks to Cast King keeping us casting. Uh, Good experience with those rods. We'll get into that later. Been smallmouthing with them and digging every minute of it. Yeah, so big shout out to the folks at Cast King. And then, of course, Bass Cove Fishing. All the cool swag that you could ever need. BassCoveFishing.com. Get over there. Get you a new faded shirt. They got the 90s fade, like the old lowrider trucks. Get your top, top your shirt's black. It fades out to gray at the bottom. They look cool. I came up with it, so you should go get one. It's just a given. Um, Zebro Lithium. Shout out to them guys for keeping us powered. Those batteries have been killer all year long. We've put them through the paces, charging them, using them pretty much every weekend from about the end of February on. And those batteries have been hitting right. They've not give up on us yet, and we absolutely love what Z Pro has done for us as far as keeping us powered. So yeah, head over to zprolithium.com, grab yourself a new battery. Got a couple more coming. You're gonna be excited about this, Zach. We might have some trolling motor batteries.
Ooh,
Might have some trolling motor batteries
that
in the
that could
mail.
get that could get fishy.
That could get interesting. We might push the limits of our sanity, but that's okay. That's what we do best. So yeah, thanks to all the great companies that make the Orion podcast possible. We appreciate the heck out of you. And to Chatterbait Music. More cowbell, more chatterbait. Um Also got an oscillator here. It'd make a different sound even more. I don't know where we're
Yeah,
going with that.
I don't either.
No. Yeah, so we had a guest on tonight. Our guest came down with COVID. So with that being
You're
said,
not allowed to say that word.
the vid come down with the vid. So yeah, we're soloing it again tonight for the next big lesson in
Goat
Airtime with
roping.
Chad and Zach. we are we are. This is the ADHD
Cat.
podcast.
This is cat wrangling specialist with Chad and Zach.
Do you think there is one? A cat wrangling specialist?
I don't know, but that'd be pretty
Somebody
funny.
Google that for us
That'd be
in the
quite the
comments and
job.
let us know. I can't Google it right now, but I would like to know if there's truly a cat wrangling specialist out there. This sounds interesting. Sounds like a job.
Oh yeah,
So,
one of
dude,
them
you're
That's
getting
one of them California jobs.
it something. It's something. Cat wrangling specialist. I like it. I don't know where we're going with it, but I like it.
I don't either.
So you got, man, you're counting down the days at this point.
Yeah, we're
The
less than
hunt
2
is
weeks
coming.
out. Less than
2
two
weeks
weeks
out.
out.
We should have popped Evan on. So how's the planning going? How's the hunt looking? And refresh everybody's memory on where you're heading again.
Well, in terms of popping Evan on, I'm sure he is on dad duty because he's been going for a week straight on a hunt in Idaho. So he's probably paying his dues from being gone for a week. But no, we fly out a week from this Friday. I fly out to Salt Lake, jump in with him, and then we're driving to Colorado. We'll be in the backcountry in Colorado for 10 days, ideally less if we tag out quickly. Excuse
And
me.
now this
That's
is is this
always
a
the
unit
goal.
you guys have been in before, or is this a new unit for you guys?
No, this is a new unit for us. We've got a little bit of intel on it, just from buddies of ours that have been in this unit. It's an over-the-counter unit, so
Mm.
typically, I mean, when we've hunted this side of the state in the past 3, 4, 5 years, we've always drawn the unit we were looking to get into. So in 19, it was an over-the-counter unit, and then 2020 they changed it over to a draw unit, and we drew it in 2020 and 21, and did
Mhm.
not get lucky enough to do so this year. So we tried the secondary draw, came up short, and over the counter it was. So that's what we're doing. So probably going to be a little bit tougher unless we can really get in some elk on the border of that unit and the unit next to it, which is a draw unit.
Mhm.
There are a few ridges and drainages there that they will cross back and forth into. So hopefully we can dig in there and get into a whole mess of them and fill 3 tags and get on out of there. It's one of those
How's
things.
the
It's bittersweet, right? You waited all year to get in there. You don't want it to be over too quick, but you also don't want to
no, you want
eat
to
tag soup at the end of the week. So
no, and you don't want the stress either, really, of pushing there to the last minute and riding the fine line of are we going to get it done? I mean that puts stress on everybody, and
yeah,
when you're in a camp like that, you can get a little chippy, especially everybody starts getting grouchy when it coming down to the wire.
yeah. I mean that's part of just like you and I going fishing. It's you've gotta find a good hunting partner, somebody that's going to stay
Hmm.
positive. Even in the tough times or the stressful times. And I think he and I have been pretty good partners in the wilderness the last 8 years now.
Hmm.
So it's always good when you get somebody that stays positive and keeps the energy high, and always says yes when it comes to we heard a bugle 3 ridges over, are we going or are we staying? There's never a question. We're always going. So
Hmm.
it's uh it's always good to have that, somebody you can count on to show up when you need them to, which is
Yeah,
not always the
absolutely.
easiest thing to find these days.
Have you been able to gauge the terrain any at all compared to the previous units that you've been able to hunt? Do you feel like it's going to be pretty much the same, or are you looking for something maybe a little bit? You think it's going to be maybe a little bit different?
Oh, it'll be real similar. So it's in the same mountain range. It's over in the San Juans. It
Mhm.
is it actually borders on one side the unit that we've hunted the past 3 times we've been out there. So it's going to be really, really similar in terrain. And then with apps like OnX and their 3D mapping now, it's really good at giving you an idea what you're getting into before you get there.
Cool. And so how much being in open unit like that, do you feel like, I mean, when you're out in Colorado, you've got people running up and down the roads, obviously, especially
Hmm.
those pulling campers in, pulling four wheelers in, just running everywhere. How much do you feel like that's going to be a factor for, doing an open over the counter tag hunt?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the unit and depends on the area you get into. So it's kind of the trick, especially when you're in an over-the-counter unit, because obviously it's going to get the most pressure. This is the last year for Colorado to have unlimited over-the-counter tags, so I'm not even sure what the next couple of years look like as far as if you don't draw, are you still going to be able to get a hold of an over-the-counter tag? Because they were the
Mhm.
last state standing as far as unlimited over-the-counter tags for non-residents, so that's going away. But you've got all the recreational folks to deal with, between hikers and mountain bikers and campers, and so it's kind of a balancing act in finding roads that give you access to the areas you want to get into without killing yourself to get there, yet being far enough away and off the beaten path enough that you're not going to get a whole lot of traffic. Um,
Right.
so
I
the
mean,
the
I can
unit the
see.
unit we've hunted in the past has got a super popular hiking trail going through it, and I mean we've killed bulls in there several times, and past people hiking in and out and things like that. So you're you know you're more than likely going to see somebody, but it's just a matter of how much pressure's in there.
This is a good one too. Talking about the other night, you had your Instagrams. It was the Hunt League Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Um, you had popped up the horse pack out pictures, and I love those because those
Oh
were
yeah.
those were some cool pictures. I mean, what are the chances you guys get lucky, knock a couple of good bulls down, and then you've got you know these nice people that just happen to stroll by to help you get out there.
Well, so that was a situation. It all boils down to timing, right? So that
Yeah.
year we killed two bulls in 37 hours. We
Hmm.
had just got my bull out the night before, got him back to the truck, drove to town, grabbed a big pizza, crushed that, went back to the trailhead. He hiked in, and I took my bull to the processor, which was about an hour and 10 minutes one way. So I got
Hmm.
back to the trailhead. It was almost midnight. So I just hunkered down in the car, went to sleep. The idea was to get up at like 6 o'clock, start hiking my way in and meet him kind of where we were going to start hunting that morning. And I got a phone call. I was literally putting my socks on and got a phone call, and he had that bull down. It had
Hmm.
He'd woke up, let out a little locate bugle from camp. That bull sounded off over the hill and started coming right to him. So it was down in no time, and so I got things strapped up, got in there. We got him broke down, got him back to camp that night, and then we started weighing our options because I had a flight out not the next day, but the day after that, early in the morning, and
So
we knew where we were at. Just shuttling loads out and then having to come back in for camp, it was going to take us almost 16, 17 hours to get him out to the truck, and then we had to drive back to Colorado. So it was a
if
it
you
was a matter of, and that was literally the last Packers that we were able to get a hold of, and luckily they were in there. We had him out in 45 minutes. It was like a 2.5 hour hike in there, and it took us 45 minutes to get out. We were hauling.
if you guys are watching it on the live stream, you can see I'm popping up some of these pictures here from that hunt that you guys can check out. Let's see. So yeah, there's the horse.
That's one of my favorite photos I've ever taken.
Like I like them all. I think these are all phenomenal pictures that you've taken on that trip. I like that one.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
some good
it's
ones in
just
there. So
there's
that
some
one,
really.
if you guys remember Adam Bender
Mhm.
has got, I mean, like most of us, he's got a pretty tight circle, right? So the guys who he's pretty close with, he has given them these pals coins.
Mhm.
And that is one that he had given to Evan years ago. And it's actually carved into a piece of antler. It's got Adam's initials in
Mhm.
it. And then on the other side it says pals. So that was a pretty cool moment to see Evan kind of pull that out. We got to send that text off to Adam after that bull was down.
Was that was a good one, man. I seen those pictures the other day, and I had to pop them on here and show
Yeah.
them off.
Yeah, those
So
are all from
those are
2019. There's an article I wrote. I think it was literally called Two Bulls in 37 Hours. I wrote it for Easton after
mm,
that hunt. So I think if you Google that title, it'll come up, and it's kind of got the whole story, the whole thing. But no, that was a good one. It would be great if that happens again. There's three of us this time, so ideally we get a bull down, we can get it out in one trip with three of us. But
should be good, man.
my little bull in 2019, Evan and I packed it out in one trip by ourselves. That was a that was a rough one. Because if you remember what my feet looked like that year, my
Oh yeah.
boots and my feet were not agreeing. So it that alone was a mental grind.
Let's see here. So as far as the bow you're taking this year, let's talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's actually
I,
upstairs tonight. I had a
I think I got the
get
right one. Boom. Is that the right one?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is the VTM 31 from Hoyt. So it's a little smoke show. It's shooting a fairly heavy arrow. I mean, a not ridiculously heavy arrow. I don't know how much folks out there know, but it's 500 grains, which is, in my opinion, pretty middle of the road. I mean, I've been 490 to 515 grains for the last 7 or 8 years. That's just kind of where my arrows always fall. Um, Not over the top heavy, but that bow's still shooting a 500 grain arrow at 300 feet a second. So it's cooking. Um, it's a little shorter than what I'm used to, axle to axle, but it's really stable. I've got it balanced well. It's set up different than that is there. That's one of the images I did for Hoyt for the launch of that bow last fall. It's got different everything on it. Got a different quiver, different sight, different rest, different stabilizers. It's still shooting. Well, it's about to be shooting a different arrow too. But it's dialed in. I was outside playing with it tonight. I pulled an ounce off the front bar yesterday, uh, which made a big difference. It tightened my groups up at 70 yards. So bumped it back to 85% let off. For those who don't know, Colorado for years and years and years and years and years had an 80% let off rule on their max let off. Um, so that was always, had to make sure you had that detail crossed off. But now they've bumped it up to 85%, which is nice. That's what most of your bows now come factory as. So it's a little more
That
comfortable to shoot at that let off.
that can be important. That's definitely an important note. I mean, you watch a lot of the hunting shows and you see, the lighted nocks and the different things and
Uh-huh.
all that's done filming, but and expandable broadheads and so on. But when you go out west to some of these places, it's always good to check the rules because some of that
You know,
stuff, like the lighted nocks and expandable broadheads, isn't necessarily allowed.
some of the regs have been around for, 50, 60, 75 years,
Mhm.
and they've just never got around to changing them. For a long time, Idaho, when I went out there, they had stipulations on it had to be a fixed blade broadhead. It had to be a certain shape. It could not come back past the blade could not angle back past the end of the carbon shaft. There was all kinds of little stipulations on that. Colorado, about 3 or 4 years ago, finally started allowing lighted nocks if you want to run those. I still don't for certain reasons, but I think they are a great tool as far as being able to, especially on film, see the impact, know where the impact was made, know where the animal's
Mhm.
standing, different things like that. So there are a lot of benefits to them, but as far as like fitment, weight consistency, accuracy, there's just not one out there that I'm comfortable with running right now. Um, Electronics on your bow. No electronics on your bow in Colorado, so no sight light. I don't even attach a GoPro to my bow because I don't know if that will be construed as electronics on your bow or not. So we don't do any of that out there. And then obviously the let off rule. So that changed now, which I'm thankful for because that bow is definitely more comfortable to shoot at 85% than it was at 80. It was being that it's 83 and a half pounds, it was really getting aggressive on me at 80% let off. You wouldn't think 5% would make a big difference, but it kind of takes the valley out of that draw cycle, and just you're right on the peak of it. It seems like when you're at anchor, and it's wanting to go all the time.
And I mean, some of the dual cam bows that we've shot, especially as the dual cam, I guess really you could say that the biggest part of our archery beginnings are the part of the really big dual cam revolution, because it was always solo cam and all that before, and then PSE, Hoyt, and some of them really started pushing the dual cam. And
Yeah.
some of those early bows, man, they'd rip your arm off. Like if you just kind of crept just a little, you had a little bit of that creep. And I
Especially
mean,
this, well, and especially early because it was the speed bows that they were putting that dual cam on,
hmm
and the speed bows were notorious for that. Even the turbos for a long
hmm
time, up until about 3 years ago, the turbos were really bad, and then they kind of changed things a little bit. And 3 or 4 years ago, they started getting some turbos that were a lot more comfortable to shoot. But
hmm
I mean, with the speed of most of them now, I would rather shoot the bow I have now at 83 pounds than I would a turbo at 72 or 73 pounds. It's just a more
yeah.
comfortable setup, and I'm getting the same speeds.
I went shopping again the other day. I got online. It came up in conversation again at the office. Mm, there was there is several 3D targets out around the field. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Basically, yeah, he still has all the targets that he bought at the last I when the IBO finally
Oh
left
yeah. Yeah.
Bedford, and all the McKenzie targets. Yeah, he still got them all. And he went and set up like 20 of them the other day. He's like, "Oh, you need to go get a bow and you need to come shoot with us." I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. So I started shopping. I started
Yeah.
shopping again, and it is, you're talking about, the brace height and the axle to axle. Man, it's hard to find what a fella likes anymore, especially like for me. I'm at a 27 and a half,
Hmm.
27 to 28, really comfortable at a 27.5 inch draw. So to find a bow that dimensionally fits my draw length to shoot well, it's getting harder and harder, because I like
It.
32. I like a 32 and a 7 inch brace height.
Yeah.
But that's almost unheard of. 32 is getting harder and harder to find. I mean, I even noticed cruising through the Hoyt line.
Yeah.
Um,
That
what
31's the
was it?
closest you're going to get to a 32.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's what I've got. It's like 31 and the 16th or something. Brace height's not even a conversation anymore. Nobody
Oh,
looks at it. Nobody talks about it. It's not even a feature that is marketed. It's still there in the specs, but nobody pays attention to it.
hmm
Axle to axle anymore is not even that's not even an accurate measurement. So they started going off what they call a cam over measurement from the
hmm
outside of the cam to the outside of the cam, because the cams are so large,
Right.
it really opens up the string angle. So like for me, I'm still super duper comfortable in a 34-inch axle to axle or the Ultra from Hoyt. My carbon bow upstairs is an Ultra, and that thing is a dream for me to shoot. My head's extremely vertical, just everything fits well, the bow sits well.
hmm
It's just geometrically, it's made for me a lot more than this 31. Now, I can shoot the 31 pretty well, but I don't shoot it as well as my Ultra. Now, I'm
hmm
a 29.5-inch draw. You being 2 inch shorter on draw length, that
hmm
31 would probably fit you extremely well,
Oh yeah.
and you're going to gain some speed out of it over a 34, because traditionally the 34 is slower than the shorter axle to axle bows. It's just how the specs work out. Um,
So the one that I was looking at the other day online, and I thought this was actually still a really good price point bow. It may not be the top of the line, but it does show you that there are still some bows out there that are relatively affordable in that price range, and that's Torix. The Hoyt Torix
yeah,
was, I think it was 799.
yeah, the Torex
So
isn't
that's not
priced.
bad.
Yeah, the Torex isn't priced too awful bad. It's not a Pro Series bow. You
Mhm,
don't get the roller guard for the cables. You don't get the same limb pockets. You don't get some of the Pro Series features, but it's still a really good shooting bow, and it comes in at a much nicer price than
mhm.
a $1,400 mainline bow.
Well, and if you like that bow and that setup, it looks like you can go with the XT and, bump it up a couple $100 and you do get some of those features that, you might be looking for. And it's still for a couple $100, a really nice bow from what I
Yeah.
can tell. Dimensions are a little bit different, but
Yeah. And that's
for the
if you're
most part,
looking, if you're looking at a new one, there are with TAC and some of the events out there, there are a lot of guys that are building brand new rigs every year and decking
uh-huh.
them out completely. And then they're turning around, they're upgrading again the very next year, whether or not they need to. They just enjoy spending the money, um, from what I can tell, and just being around the TAC crowds. But the used market, if you know what you're looking for, if you're paying attention to how well things have been taken care of, you can get some really good deals on some 1-year-old bows. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
if I was not in the position that I am in, that is the route that I would be going, and I'd probably be looking at 2-year-old bows at
And
least.
some of your pro shops even have some decent trade-ins sometimes too. I think, that's something to always mention. I mean, we talk about it a lot in the kayak world, but visit your local pro shops because I mean, they're fewer and further between than they used to be, but man, they're still an important part of
Yeah.
getting set up proper and getting set up so
Yeah,
it's
I mean, especially
functioning for you.
if you don't have a setup like I have here in my I mean, I have a pro shop here in my basement. I've got everything I could possibly need to work on a bow, and not everybody does, and not everybody's got the skills to do so. So yeah, pro shops still have a very, very important place in the market, and just
Hmm.
being able to go in there and get your stuff worked on by somebody that's knowledgeable. Now, that being said, not all pro shops are created equal.
No,
Um, but if you have a good shop or, need recommendations for a good shop, there's definitely some very top-notch places out there to get your stuff worked on.
absolutely.
I
And
see you down there, Jason Cassidy.
we know.
So yes, Carl is headed out there with Brandon. And yes, Brandon and I have talked about possibly getting together in the future for an elk hunt. He and I were
Good
actually
podcast.
chatting. He and I were actually chatting arrows the other day, and he was like, "We should roll that into a podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, you should mention that." So we're working on that. We haven't got the schedules lined out yet, but we're working on that.
Yeah. Eventually,
Get
eventually the stars will align and that
uh,
will hopefully happen.
September
Um,
is a busy time when you start talking about elk and all the deer seasons and everything opening up. There's a lot of guys on the road right now.
well, I think, man, you hit September and pretty much all the way through the holiday season and New Year's Day, it's busy.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
busy.
I mean, September, October, November, especially because you're rolling out of mule deer,
Mhm,
well, pronghorn and mule deer and elk season into whitetail, and then it gets peak rut for whitetail, and
mhm.
it's a tough time to schedule anything. Which is
It
why you get
it
to
really,
listen to Chad and I chase squirrels for an hour.
yeah, because we enjoy it really,
Well, that
and
too.
we have to do something with our
I
time.
think I
Our
think when
hands
I
busy.
told I think when I told my wife our guest had to cancel, you and I were going to roll solo. She said, "Haven't you guys run out of things to talk about?" And I just laughed.
No, I mean, there's always something. We're always into something stupid that will occupy our time for at least an hour, at
Hmm.
least a minimum. I mean,
Oh yeah,
and it's where it's at.
yeah,
But no, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for you and Evan to get out there and get this thing done, man. I think it's gonna be a good year.
man. I hope so. We're due for one. Poor Evan.
Yeah.
He's sicker than a dog right now. He hit one. I don't even know if he'd want me telling this, but he hit a bull. What's today? Today's Tuesday. I think it
Hmm.
was Saturday night or Sunday night. It might have been Sunday night. It was a long shot, which not a big deal for him, but somehow if his rangefinder marked something other than the bull or what, but it ranged him long, and he ended up hitting him. I don't know, probably 12 inches high, which sounds ridiculous, but an elk is a very large target. Um,
Hmm.
Hit him high enough, he should have still caught both lungs, so it should have been a lethal hit, and might have been, but from the time he hit him, the whole next day it was pouring rain. Um, So any blood that was hitting the ground on that high of a hit was getting washed away, which is never good. Um, then you're
Makes it
left to grid, yeah. Then you're left to trying to track and grid search, and it's just not a good situation.
that's not a situation anybody ever wants to be in, especially with rain. That that adds a lot of frustrations to any outdoorsman that's out there doing that. I mean,
If
rain
you
is
hunt
not
long,
your
you
friend.
hunt no, and if you hunt long enough, I mean, situations like that are going to happen, and it's never easy to swallow. But I remember I hit a bull in 2018, and luckily it was low enough. We were finding fresh blood 24 hours later. Like it wasn't a lethal hit. Uh, it was down in the brisket underneath the heart. Didn't hit anything vital. It was just low enough. He was still kind of bleeding every time he'd lay down and roll around on it and stuff. So we found fresh blood 24 hours later, right back in the same spot where I hit him. So he had actually came back to that spot, which is wild. But yeah, he was fine. He was not hurt. Elk are crazy tough animals. But it happens. It's part of the process, unfortunately.
Well,
Let's see.
here's to a good season. I think it's gonna pan out, and then you got whitetail season coming back here, which you guys have put in some work for
Yeah,
that. If you guys follow the
yeah,
Hunt League
I
channel, you've finally seen the reels.
yeah,
Um,
I
so it's
I got a couple photos of a 9 point last night I've been seeing. He's about 140, 140 to 145 inches. So he's
mm,
not number one. He's not number one on the hit list, but he's got my interest peaked for sure. I think he's about 4 years old.
based on the time crunch and the schedule, it's not a bad thing to have a backup plan.
No, but I'm holding out for November 13th. See if I can see Lucky. I got a lot of history with that deer so far. I need to
Yeah,
close. I need to close the book on that one.
it'll be here before you know it. I've been down that road, and I waited too long.
Yeah, I mean, you got to
It
shoot the
didn't
one
work
that
out.
trips your trigger. You got to shoot the one that trips your trigger. But
Yeah.
it, I don't know. He's got a very consistent pattern the last 2, 3 years. So
Brings back memories.
yeah,
That was a tough
yeah.
one. I mean, just to preface the story, there was there's this deer that I got obsessed with it. I really did, and we've seen it, like 3 times, and he was just, you go left, he goes right. I mean, it was just one of those deals, and finally, one fine fall morning, here he comes walking down through there, and it just happened to be the opening weekend of the other season, and I didn't have a good shot. I seen him. I was archery hunting, and he's just happened to stop in a pile of brush, and it was like there was no shot. There was just no way that moment could happen, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And I watched him turn, and he walks down the hill, and I see him hop the fence, and he goes across the. We've got a had a railroad track down there, and he walks right past another one of my stands that I could have been in. Um, so I'm shaking, I'm shook up. It's like, oh my gosh, finally got. It was so close, and it just didn't happen. Not today. I'll set up here again later, and probably not 15 minutes later, I hear this ringing echo blare out through the woods, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. That is
Hmm.
it. And I walk down. I jump out of my stand. I'm hustling down the hill because I'm like, that was close. I could hear it. It was close. And I literally see two dudes pick him up and throw him over the fence.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's how that story went. So that was
yeah.
fun.
So that's the really bad part about November, right? So
Yep.
calling that buck lucky, he shows up on the 13th every year, 13th of November, but gun season comes in on the 14th or 15th. So, I mean, you are playing with matches at that point. And
Yep.
I mean, the number of hunters in the woods on opening day of gun season from bow season to gun season just, I mean, tenfold.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, how much. how much impact or impression goes into the woods once that season starts. I mean, because you will see deer start to move a little bit earlier into October as, just bow hunters take to the woods. You start to see them on the roads and different things more. But, you really start to see a lot more animals on the roads getting impacted. Um, once that season starts and it has to do with the rut too. I mean, they're really up
Yeah.
and moving around on their feet more, but they're also getting a lot of
Hmm.
pressure, so it's pushing the deer.
Yeah.
And it's just there's a lot bigger impression on the wooded areas than there normally is once that season starts.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a combination of of both of the two for sure. And the buck I killed in 2015, I
Hmm.
killed him. Well, I mean, it was opening morning of gun season. I was sitting in the tree with my bow, and shots have been ringing out all morning long. And about 10:30, all your gun hunters start going home because they're
Hmm.
cold, they're froze out, going to go home and eat lunch. And, I'm there for the duration. I'm planning to sit in the tree all day long. And 11 o'clock, a doe brought my target buck by, and was all she wrote. So it was, after everybody else had gone home, she got him up and away they went, and she led him down the wrong path. But it worked out for me. And, I mean, that's that time of year, you never know. And a
No,
lot of
you
the
really
a
don't.
lot of the a lot of the big buck movement I've seen happens between like 11 and 2 o'clock.
Hmm.
They get up, they cruise midday, grab a bite to eat before they bed down a little bit in the afternoon, and then get up later in the evening. So yeah, I don't like to go home that time of year.
No.
If I'm going out, especially, I mean, my time out there is finite anyway. So if I head to the woods, I'm planning on being there all day.
Me and Reed always gauged it off of who gets miserable first, and nobody ever wanted to. I remember, man, it was New Year's Day, and it was miserable. It was like below zero.
Yeah.
We couldn't have pulled our bows back if we wanted to. Let's just be honest. It was that cold. It
Yeah.
was it was beyond stupid. But we were out there, and we were both freezing to death, but neither one of us could call it. It's like I ain't
Oh
giving
yeah.
up. I'm not going to be the one that calls it. And we
Hmm.
was notorious for that. I mean, we would sit there. We've got been lost in the snow up on the ridges of the Hoosier National Forest, and it started snowing one time, and it was like, I mean, by the time we got up to the top of the ridge, and you've seen the ridge, it's dumb. It's really dumb. I don't know why we ever. It was like it was a nasty hill, and we walk up this thing, and we get to the top, and I mean, it had snowed so much by the time we got to the top of this ridge that we didn't know where we were anymore. I mean, we completely had got ourselves turned around, but neither one of us were dedicated enough to follow our tracks and turn around and go back down the hill. No, we had to wait it out. So we sat there in the snow till the sun kind of started coming up to where we could figure out where we was at, and then we went and sat in the snow,
Yeah.
finished out the day because we're just stubborn and nobody wants to say. I mean, it's like the man card thing. It's a
Oh yeah.
quiet it's a quiet man card thing.
I
But
won't even let
yeah,
myself. I won't even let myself quit anymore. It's
no,
if I get that cold to that point, like I'll get down and take a walk to check a trail camera, and then come back and get back in the tree once I've warmed back up. I'm not going home.
no. And we
I'm
like
afraid.
to do
I'm
things for
honestly, it's FOMO. I'm literally afraid of what I'm going to miss out on if I go back to the house. Because in my
yeah.
head, if I go back to the house, even for an hour, that buck
Hmm.
walked by that tree while I was at home.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's just the same thing of that's the same thing we got into with our fishing trip this past weekend. It was the exact same thing. It was like, well,
Yeah.
if I cross this, what's behind
What's in the
there?
next hole? Yeah.
Well, what's behind there? And we've got more pictures. So talk a little bit about that. And Tyler and Josh, man, they were troopers. These guys had never done a stupid trip with Chad quite like this one. So, our weekend started off. There's poor Josh. We made him drag his boat over this big log, and it looks like we could have just rode up on that log and got over it. And no, what you don't see is it's super deep on the other side of that. It's probably 8 foot deep. And then there's like a little gravel bar that's coming up to it where the gravel is actually silting in. over top of the log, so you couldn't get a good run to make it over it, and it was too deep on the other side going the other way, so you would just hit into it and you couldn't really pop the bow up over top of it. But it was, stuff like this right here making them drag in shallow water. Poor guys. I mean,
it takes the right footwear for that game too. Like Crocs probably ain't going to cut it real well.
the creek rocks in your shoes exfoliate your feet. It's better than going to the spa, getting that sand and that grip between your toes and your shoes and just rubbing in there. It gets it good. But I mean, that's like the same principle. I mean, like you don't know what you're missing out on if you don't get through that nasty stuff and on to the
It's
next spot. It's like I gotta know. I
Dude,
gotta
it's
know.
no different. It's no different than the kid on the bank of the farm pond. Just one more cast, just one more cast,
One more
just one
cast.
more. If I don't make that last cast, like might not catch that giant.
No, I mean, and it's all about a smallmouth. I mean, because obviously, I mean, that's one of the things me and we have been obsessed with finding the hidden spot in the creek that has the biggest smallmouth that ever swam
Yeah.
in
Oh
that
yeah.
creek. We're obsessed with it. We've been obsessed with it for a while.
Give me all the
It's
brown
just,
fish.
yeah, I mean, it's about finding that hidden spot. And if we can find it, we'll do it the hard way to get to it.
Oh yeah, that part
Everything,
don't bother us at all.
no, everything's on the up and up. So, like, we're in the water. It's like we don't get out on the bank or nothing. We stay in the water. And yeah, I
Our
mean, we
very
just,
first adventure, you almost broke your ankle.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought you was gonna have to carry. I probably broke
I don't
something.
know.
I'll be honest.
Yeah. It,
My foot was pretty black. Um, didn't go to the doctor because it's principle.
oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, man, I thought you was carrying me out on that one. To preface that story, that was just a bad twist of luck. I was walking in the creek and we hit a patch of slick rock, and
Yeah.
my foot slipped. But when it slipped, it got caught in the crevice. My actual sole of my shoe got caught, and as I went, my foot just totally twisted. It was nasty. You could hear it. It popped. Um, but yeah, I thought you was carrying me out on that one, but we still caught fish. So
Yeah. We didn't at that point because we were in that super hard slick rock bottom and we had to get back to the gravel. But
yeah, we needed gravel and we needed gravel bad.
we
But
uh we figured out not to go that way anymore because there weren't any fish down there anyway. But
no, we ended up riding our bikes down the road and jumped in another spot down from my house in the same creek.
yeah,
And there wasn't good. There wasn't really any good rock there either.
no, we had to
But
go the other direction.
yeah, so our trip over the weekend, it was cool. It was adventurous. I think my Facebook post said, it's those little trips like that that keep the little kid inside of you happy. Um, and that's what it's about. I think for both of us is keeping that little kid inside happy. But sometimes you're also met with the immovable object. We got down there and come across the log jam that was probably it was up to the top of the bank, and I'd say the bank was a good 12 feet on either side, straight up and down. Yes, did we have ropes? Yes, we could have pulled up that bank, but then we also would have been trespassing on somebody's property, and that's not part of the game. Um, so we couldn't go over it feasibly without, trespassing. So we stayed in the creek and turned them around and came back. But I got halfway to where I wanted to go. But there's still the legend of what's back there that makes me want to go back again next year. Once hopefully that log jam gets pushed out, I got another crack at it, and I can get back there and see if I can't find those hidden holes.
Yeah,
I
yeah, it'd
don't
be
know.
fun to do. I mean, I'm probably out for the fall at this point, but it would be fun to get in
Oh
the
yeah,
creek next summer and do that again. It's been a while.
it's a good run back there, and you really, we had the buy FD. Tyler was in the buy FD, and it was a perfect boat for it. But he could only pedal in so far before we hit into the rock and the stuff like that, where he was pretty much locked with a paddle in his hand, and
Yeah,
the drive was kicked up, but the boat was still light enough that we could get it up over and do the stuff we needed to do. The Coosa X and the Bite Angler was really the perfect two boats to be back there. I mean, it's a paddle trip. I mean, you're paddling 6 miles back, so it's
Yeah.
a good little ride. My shoulders were a little bit sore. It's actually a little bit sore than I anticipated being. Um, but you're doing a full body workout. It's the best CrossFit you can do. Dragging your boat, you're dragging your boat, you're lifting your boat, you're paddling your boat. It's There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah, there
There's
is.
a lot going on. I don't know how we got here, but that's where we're at. Um, yeah, I would encourage anybody, get off the beaten path from time to time. I definitely ain't gonna take the NAR back there anytime soon. I don't
It'd be
need that
different doing
hernia.
that trip too, because I mean, obviously, we used to wait it. It would be different doing that trip in a boat.
Oh, it's completely different. The spots that we've waded, I think, are shallower. I mean, we've hit some deep holes that we were always good about finding our way through and around the deep holes the best we could to where it wasn't never up over our head, but we definitely got waist deep a few times in some areas. Um, but yeah, I mean, having the boats and getting to go through long sections of 8 foot deep water, I think made a big difference. And we're entering the stretches off bigger water yet, so we're able to come through off deep water, off a main body, and put in and cruise up through there until we run out of water, and then the dragging game and getting up over stuff and finding the deeper holes. There's still a lot of paddling, but there's a lot of lifting. A lot of lifting
Yeah.
work goes on into it.
No.
You got to want it to get back there. That's for sure. I think there's a lot of people, would tell you the same thing. It's just like hunting in the mountains. You've got to want it to go just a little bit further to get to where you want to go.
Makes you think about how much weight you're putting in your boat too.
A little bit, a little bit. I scaled down pretty good. I mean, I didn't take a crate. For me, I packed it kind of like you would your hunting pack. I scaled it back. I had terminal tackle. I had soft plastics. I had a few hard baits.
Yeah,
Um, a couple
that's all you
spinner
need.
baits, couple chatter baits. Um, and it was all in that under seat bag and in a JK multi box, and man, it made it perfect. I had 4 rods. I could lock them down, keep them horizontal in that Coosa X, so I didn't have the rod tips were protected, which me and you always laid them back behind the seat where the tips stuck out.
Yeah,
So it was nice to have everything protected. So when I'm dragging up over and doing the different things like that, everything was good. I mean, everything was packed away and as light as I could possibly get it.
right. Yeah. Yeah, even I mean, even for me, I'd probably go a little more Spartan than 4 rods. I'd probably just take one, maybe two. But
Oh, you need a 4. Can't leave any kids at home. You gotta have movers and shakers. You gotta have 2 movers, two
yeah,
shakers.
yeah.
You might break something.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, you could scale it back. Probably, I probably didn't need all of the soft plastics I took. There was probably some
yeah.
10-inch worms floating around in a box that you
Ten
just
inch
got
worm might
transferred
be a
over from the
little
lake.
overkill for the creek. Yeah,
Might have been a little overkill. They might have got the bites though. I don't know because I didn't film. Um, but yeah, for the most part, a lot of the juice got left at home. Um,
I bet the old green pumpkin magic was in the boat though.
it was the catcher.
Always is.
It was the catcher. Green pumpkin magic is a creek catcher. In my opinion, it's just that little bit of flake is just waves at them smallmouth as it's falling. It's like, hey, we're over here. We're in the creek. We're little crawdad. Come eat me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, still the same old stuff that it's always been. I mean, that's what's fun. I think about creek fishing. It's the
You don't
simple
have
lures. Yeah.
you don't have to think about it too hard. That's for sure.
No, you really don't. I mean, those fish have likely never seen a lure. Once you get back so far, you get past where the boats go and where most other people are going to turn around. You're going to find fish that have never been caught, and they're naive to whatever you're throwing, whether it's a Ned rig, a crawl bait, but I mean just little, probably 2.5, 3 inch baits,
Yeah.
and you can go back there and have yourself time
Hmm.
getting into some untouched areas. And the only
Yeah.
way to access them, because there is no around here, public access is terrible, unlike a lot of states. I
Yeah.
mean, this is all you're really dealing with all farmland, so there's no place to really jump off the road and go. I mean, you either got to have permission or you got to come in from the big water and
Yeah.
really rough it to get back there to where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you can find or meet the right people to get some access, that goes a long way for sure.
Yeah, and access is probably harder to come by in both genres now. I mean, fishing obviously is one thing, but then, knocking on somebody's door to go hunting these days is a completely different animal. I mean,
Oh, it's most of the good farms are leased up. Um,
mhm,
to be able to door knock free permission these days is a very rare thing. Um,
mhm,
most of the time it's leased, and most of the time it's leased from guys that might live 2, 3 hours away.
mhm.
That's what's wild.
Yeah, it's almost
That's
like
what's really wild.
how do they find that place that's next door to you when they're states away, you know?
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, there's good money in it for the farmers. I mean, it's a lot of times it can pay property taxes.
yeah, yeah. In certain states, it definitely can. Um, sometimes too, the farmers give the hunting rights with the guy renting the farm.
Mhm,
If they're putting in ag ground too, sometimes. So that's an interesting too. Sometimes it may not even be the landowner you got to talk to; it's the farmer who's
mhm.
actually tilling the ground and working it. So yeah, it's a different game. It makes me super duper thankful to have all the private ground I got access to back home. That's for sure.
Yeah, and private ground around here is all like I said. I mean, some of it's hard to access, but then there's a lot. While we're not in northern Indiana, there's still a lot that is wide open spaces. And
Yeah,
for example, our farm is are there deer there? Absolutely 100%. Are they hard to
yeah,
hunt? 1000%. Why? Because there's
yeah.
no trees.
No, it's mostly pasture or hay ground, and
Hmm.
where the trees are. I mean, those deer know those trees. They know something's off.
Hmm.
Um, so
They're
yeah,
they're
that
crossing the
makes it
fence.
pretty challenging. Yeah, you gotta be able to pick out a spot on the fringes and just hope you catch them coming through at the right time.
Hmm. Yep, yeah, like I say, and the wind direction, like for our farm, is set up terrible because if the wind's blowing out of the west, I mean, you're screwed from the get go. If
Yeah,
it's blowing out of the north, it's tough too. But I mean, you just can't really win with wind direction. I mean, because it is just such a vast open place, and since everything is coming at you, it's just really tough to set up on. Like I said, the neighbors have got some thick stuff, and they cross over into there, and that's where they bed down. But then they'll come over to our side at night to feed. So I mean, you're really looking at setting up like a round bale blind or something like that to be accurate and to have a chance. But I mean, it's
yeah.
tough.
I mean,
I
that's where you got to get creative with stuff like that. Take the tractor and move
mean,
some bales and build you a little natural blind like that, and that's your best option whenever you're hunting a spot like that.
yep. And
Not
then
like
you're
the guy
looking.
down the road here from me who just there's never been a blind ever in the middle of this hayfield over here, and he just went out there and stuck one right in the middle of it. Sticks out like a sore. I thought I saw a deer from 200 yards away just staring and stomping on that thing the other night. I'm like, why did he ever think that was going to work?
And it doesn't. I mean, like if you've got a bunch of hay bales and stuff out there, a lot of times you can get away with it or set one in a like we used to stack the bales in rows so you could, move a bale, put your blind in and go from there. But you're looking at really needing to take a longer shot than you are with archery equipment at the end of the day because it's a big field. I mean, you're
You've
looking
got to
across
have,
8 acres.
yeah, you've got to have something to pull them in close. I mean, if
Hmm.
you're going to have to get lucky if they just walk by the front of the blind in a big open spot
Yeah.
like that. There's nothing
Yeah.
to direct their movement, you know.
Now you can go through, and I know Reed's done this at his place. He went through and of course, they didn't have any cattle, but they went through and he cut different areas and fell trees in different areas to kind of funnel the deer to come to a certain spot, and
Yeah,
it worked. It
yeah,
was he made it work.
yeah.
But if you've got
Hinge
any sort of
cutting and
livestock,
yeah.
you can't go cutting fence.
No, you can't go cutting fence, but hinge cutting
Hmm.
and that sort of thing is definitely a good tool to direct movement where you want it.
Hmm.
It's something I've been kind of looking at on our farms, and there's some trees that need to be thinned out anyway. But yeah, different things like that, different ways of mowing. Say you've got a giant clover plot and
Hmm.
you want to bring the deer in 20 to 25 yards, and just you can till up a spot there and plant something different because deer like those hard edges too, right? So
Hmm.
I was listening to a podcast the other night with Greg Ritz, and he was talking about that. Plant something different, run a Nebraska mix through there where you get some turnips and radishes and stuff like that. Gives them a different option. They might go out there, pick on a bunch of clover for a while, but as they come back and go to the woods, they're going to be sure and swing over and get a couple turnips or radishes or something of that nature something sweet before they head into the woods. So let's see.
I think I mean, can you tell on your camera how the food plot's doing? That's the real question.
Well, I could there for a bit. It was looking pretty good, but that camera hasn't generated a photo now in about 8 or 9 days, so I'm not sure what's going on with it.
Mm.
But before that, it was
Well, the
looking
good
pretty
news
good.
is Well, the good news is we may have some rain coming through the area here tomorrow. So we're hoping to get some today, but it didn't. It thundered and got cloudy and carried on, but it never dropped a drop of rain. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Hey,
your
you
food plots will
guys,
be getting water.
that'd be good. You guys should see it tomorrow because I think we're supposed to see it on Thursday. So,
Yeah, I'm hoping
um,
so. We need a little bit of rain. Like the creek is, it was amazing. And just being back in the creek, and you could tell like we've not had any rain for a while because it freaking dropped almost a foot and a half. I mean, there was stuff back there that we were fishing the last trip and paddling over that was completely bare ground. So, you know,
yeah.
a little bit of rain goes a long way, especially as we move into October and through September is the drier season here in Indiana,
Hmm.
where most of the corn and everything's drying out. So we definitely need to see a little bit of rain.
Yeah, it'd be good if those plots to see a little bit. I don't know if I can fix that camera from here or not, being it's a cell camera. I'm hoping I can, but
I'm sure you can get her going. It'd be neat to see. It'd be neat to see the progress and see how far that
yeah.
thing's come just in a few short weeks.
Yeah, it was
It's got
thickening
some
up pretty
rain.
good. It was thickening up pretty good. It was probably 8 inches tall or better. The last photos I saw of it. So it
That's
was
good,
coming in
man.
pretty good. Yeah, it was coming in pretty good. I haven't seen the one there at our home place, the home farm, but I'm sure if the other one's doing well, it should be doing pretty good too.
I would say so. And it may have got some rain out there, so you just never know.
Yeah.
Rain means no work for me, Wyatt says. We're sorry, Wyatt, but it's got to rain at some point, man. The fish need
Uh,
rain.
let's go do some more dove hunting. That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, some dove hunting
No,
would be.
no pun intended. But yeah, I've not been dove hunting a long time. This sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I'd say we could tear that up pretty easy. We could tear something up pretty easy doing some
Oh,
of that.
I mean, if nothing else, I can burn up a box of shells or two.
Yeah, I would say I would probably burn up a box of shells at this point because it's been a while since I've been out and done anything like that. Oh, but I wouldn't be mad about it either.
No,
Ma-
no,
Matter of fact, I never did ask.
I do love the smell of a good spent shotgun shell.
It does have an aura to it.
Yes, it's got a very nice aroma.
Wyatt says he habered them and he sold after the wheat was harvested. You
Nice,
know, you got it.
nice.
We need to get out. We need to get out more. We're not out enough.
I need to do more bird hunting.
We need to do more bird hunting. That's a different rabbit hole for our next podcast, though. I feel like is when we start talking about our hopes and dreams of getting into the upland game.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's a big rabbit hole
When
for us.
when we had Matt Davis and of course Fred on a long time ago, that
Yeah.
was those two guys do a lot of upland hunting.
Hmm. That's a dream. The South Dakota trip is a dream of ours, and that's a rabbit hole that we should not go down at 59 minutes and 30 seconds into this podcast because we'll be here all night. That's a
Yeah.
that's a hot topic button. It's kind of our fly fishing. Like some people enjoy fly fishing, whereas we don't really care. Up
Well,
to the
I got a
bird hunt,
taste of I got a taste of that in Colorado too, and that was kind of fun. But I would rather go bird hunt, I think.
I'd like to take pictures of fly fishing. I don't like to do it.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. I just don't enjoy it. It's the patient thing. It's the patient thing.
It's very technical. It's very technical when it
Yeah,
comes
I
to
like I
that.
like the photography aspect of it. I like to see the line moving through the lens and catch the line in the different positions and stuff like that. I think that's cool. And the same thing with the bird hunting though. I like that through the lens as well. So I think that could be
Yeah.
another really bad habit because I like the way that or pheasant taste,
Well,
and I like to take pictures of dogs.
you need to go delve into Matt's YouTube channel. They've been killing it on some short films on the Final Rise YouTube channel.
Yeah, the Final Rise YouTube channel does have some really good stuff. I watched one of the last ones they just put out with the girl that paints. What's her name?
Oh yeah, Amanda. I tried to get her
Amanda.
on
Yes,
here, and she's very much an introvert and doesn't like to do podcast type
that's
stuff.
okay. That's okay. It
But
was
she
cool. I
is
mean, I was a
extremely
good episode.
talented.
That was a great episode actually. And for people that do not follow Matt's YouTube channel, I will look that up. Final Rise. It was it was an epic.
Yeah. Well, and Amanda's, I mean, she's an amazing talent with her artwork too. Just painting
Hmm.
and photography too. I mean, she shoots a lot of photos, but she's really, really good with paintbrush.
Yeah, she very much is. Let's see, share this copy. And I will share this into the comments for anybody that is interested to go check this out from Matt Davis's YouTube channel, Final Rise. It's a great one. So if you're looking for something to watch, and like Zach said, they've got a few new videos out. Looks like The Devil's Chain, Finding Focus. There's a few of them that are new that have dropped that I haven't
I
seen
think
yet,
the
but they're great
I think
little
the
short clips.
yeah, I think the Devil's Chain was the last one I watched. It was really good too. I need to
Mhm.
can't remember if I've seen Finding Focus yet or not, but he's got a lot of good stuff on there. They're really working on the content side of things right now.
Oh, it's awesome stuff. And like I said, if you like that kind of thing, definitely check those out. And I tell you, we're talking about YouTube. We're talking about YouTube. We'll jump back over to the fishing for a second. If you have not seen the Kings of Bass final ride with KVD series, go check that out about his retirement journey here through this last season. It's very well filmed, very well put together, worth a watch. So yeah, check
They've
that out.
always done a very good job with the cinematic side on the Kings of Bass series.
The Kings of Bass stuff is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I mean, it's there's Pollinix stuff, and I love Pollinix stuff, and then there's the Kings of Bass, and it's up there just a little bit.
Yeah, they're using. I mean,
They're using bigger
BP and Vandy are using DSLRs. Kings of Bass is using
Mhm.
something on a whole nother level.
Yeah, like and different stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, see here, find the link to episode one. I will drop that in the comments because it's just a. If you haven't watched that series, it's worth going and watching.
Yeah.
Last ride. Yeah, it's the last ride with KVD. So definitely watch that. Drop this in the comments. There we go. So yeah, some good YouTube watching for anybody that wants to watch some YouTubes. If you're on the hunting side, if you're on the fishing side, hit those up. You will definitely enjoy those. Um, let's see. We got anything else? We burned it down for tonight.
Uh, I don't know. My brain's kind of fried at the moment, but No, I mean it's going to be a little bit before I'm back because I leave on the 15th. So
Yeah. So next podcast we've got yeah, you're actually going to be gone for the next one on the 19th.
yeah,
So yeah, you guys are going to be stuck with me and whoever else I can find for the 19th. And yeah, so we'll be back with the Orion podcast on the 19th with a special co-host for that adventure.
yeah.
And
But if nothing
hopefully,
else, we should
hopefully,
have some good stories when I'm back.
absolutely, dude, I hope so. I hope we have some great stories when you get back, and I look forward to sitting here and we can maybe do another one-on-one podcast, and you can tell those stories because I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of enjoying the one-on-one podcast, to be honest with you. I don't know if everybody else is, but I sure I like it. It's fun.
It's more or less
It's
just a
something.
you and I catch up session. But it's good. No, it's a good time.
Well, and we kind of know what questions to ask each other, I guess.
Well, right. Yeah, true.
But I mean, none of it's scripted, so
No.
we're still off the cuff, so none of it's scripted. Um, but yeah, we'll definitely be back again on the 19th. Zach will be hunting, but I will be here with another guest, and yeah, we will see you guys then. So thanks for watching. Check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Jackson Kayak YouTube page. You can go back through and watch all the previous episodes with all the previous guests and check out the Jackson Kayak Doc series as well. So with that, we will see you guys next time.
Later.
Chatterbait, 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 chatterbait. I don't know where that came from. But